And welcome to the channel, everyone. We are going to break down UFC Macau in this video, and I promise you that I'm going to do my best to pronounce every fighter's name correctly. I will give you the best effort that I can, and probably a better effort than most people will, but I probably will mess some up because, I'm a native English speaker, and not many of the names are native English names. So bear with me on that. I do appreciate it. Also, thank you guys for all of the support. We've had a pretty good uptick in people coming to the Patreon, and most success has been had. Last week, we have our Patreon parlay, and it was a tough card for parlays with most of the confident legs being over minus 1,000. Can't really get much out of that. So we did have Karine Silva in our Patreon parlay, and that was bad. So, you can't win them all, but we are going to bounce back here this week with that parlay for UFC Macau, as well as hit some other bets we have along the way. So tune in. Let's go over the entire card. I appreciate you watching the intro, and I'll see you at lightweight. We have a very volatile matchup between a couple of strikers where Maheshate Hayisaer takes on Nikolas Motta. Now, Maheshate is 3-2 in his last 5 fights. We're looking at 2-2 and a no contest, which probably should be 2-3 in his last 5. That no contest being the Trey Ogden fight, in which, he was getting dominated, but the ref stepped in a little too early, and we get no contest. When we look at these guys, it's very similar in their approach to the fight. They want to strike. They're very dangerous on the feet, and defense is kind of an afterthought. So for Nikolas Motta, good striker, plenty of power. He moves well on the feet. His counter-striking ability is there, and he's going to set up those power shots with his leg kicks. The problem for him is he's extremely kill or be killed. His striking defense isn't there, and his durability seems to be on the downslope. On the other side, we have Maheshate, who is he's a good striker as well. He's got plenty of power. He uses his range pretty well. Nasty elbows, good kicks, a slick cross, but his striking defense is also poor. Realistically for this fight, for me, it comes down to a couple of things. Who do I think is more durable, and who gets the home field advantage? Essentially, that leaves me with Maheshate. I'm not confident in this whatsoever. Either guy could get dropped. Either guy could get knocked out. I don't think either of them have enough defense to really be a confident pick this week. But we're taking Maheshate because I think he's probably a little more durable. And I do like the fact that he doesn't have to travel halfway across the world for it. So there we go. Let me know what you guys think. Really tough one to predict here in the bantamweight division, where Hwang Lee takes on Xiao. Now, this is a matchup between a couple of guys who are both 4-1 in their last 5 fights, both with very well-rounded skill sets, and both, what I see as similar skill levels. This is a tough one to call, and in fact, I don't blame you for going on either side. But we're going to start on the Hwang side. So for him, he's good striker. He's got good forward pressure, plenty of power, and I do like the way that he's willing to work the body to land those shots, those power shots specifically to the body. Decent wrestling as well. We saw that in his short notice UFC debut. He mixes in takedowns kind of well as a change of pace more so, but he is primarily a striker, and I think that's what he's going to want to use in this fight. Now, for Xiao, Long is a good striker as well. He's very calm in the pocket. He's able to stay there, probably because he can rely on his durability, and then pick his shots, and he does a good job with that as well. With the wrestling, good there, good takedowns, good scrambling ability. I think he might be slightly better in the wrestling, which is why I'm slightly leaning towards the Long side in this one. But guys, this is a close fight, and I can see this one going either way. There's a chance that Hwang out lands Long. That's very similar there, but either way. And if that's the case, I could see this fight going either direction. Let me know what you guys think. If you have a confident take, please let me know in the comments below. I'd love to hear it. An absolute banger of a matchup in the flyweight division, where Kavanagh takes on Jose Ochoa. And both of these guys are undefeated prospects, both 7-0. Somebody's O has to go. Now, in the last 5 fights, obviously Kavanagh's 5-0. There is a no contest on the Ochoa side. I believe it was like a knee that was not allowed or whatever. A kicker, I think it was knee. Watching it back, that's pretty sure that was what it was. But either way, it was a illegal move, no contest. Either way, they're both at 7-0 on the record. That's going to be an interesting one. Like I said, somebody's got to lose, right? So, Jose Ochoa, good striker, right? He's got good power. He's got good volume. The combinations are there, but by far his best move, that knee. He can do it from space, or even better, when he gets to the tie clinch. If this dude gets to the tie clinch and starts slamming knees, Kavanagh's going to be in some serious trouble, because those are absolutely just brutal, nasty, they will tear him up. So the knees are going to be a problem, and if Kavanagh can avoid those, that would be in his best interest. Now, in the grappling, he uses it mostly defensively. Unless he drops someone, then he'll fall it to the ground and pound the heck out of him. but he's pretty good there because he's got a good sprawl and he will attack front chokes off the sprawl. Now, he only has one finish via front choke. I think it was in his most recent fight, actually. But he does attack them often. You see that when he hits the sprawl, and then he'll go for that to get his opponent, instead of reshooting, to say, oh, shoot, I got to get out of here. This dude's going to try and choke me out. And he does have a good enough front choke series that guys will back out. On the other side for Kavanagh, we saw this man absolutely put the lights out of Antoine Ho on the Contender Series this year in the first week. I was on the opposite side of that matchup. I thought Ho was going to get it. I was dumb. Yeah, Kavanagh definitely changed my mind there. This dude is a solid striker. He's got good combinations. Plenty of power in his hands, as we've seen. Dude darts in and out very well. And he's got a diverse kicking arsenal. One thing I do like about his kicks is his leg kick specifically. He will work it to accumulation. So he'll start the leg kick early, keep working that leg kick until the fight keeps to build, and then keeps on building, and then eventually the opponent's moving slower, and then after that he's able to start picking them apart because they can't get out of the way of his shots. Does a good job there. One thing I don't like is he will drop his hands when he throws heavy. If he's throwing a big hook, the other hand will come down. If he's throwing a big cross, the other hand will come down. It's not what you want to see. Maybe he can get away with it here. He is quick. He moves his head really well, things like that. But the problem is if you drop in the hands when you're throwing heavy, the counter strike is there. And by golly, this guy is good. Ochoa is going to knock him silly if he gets caught with his hands down. So there is that. Now, good grappling on the Kavanagh side as well. His takedowns in the open mat, not as much, but against the cage, you can get takedowns. He's a good back taker, and he's got a good sprawl as well. This fight's going to kind of come down to who gets the fight where they want it. If it gets to the tie clinch, I have no doubt that Ochoa is the better fighter. On the mat, it's going to be hard to say because we haven't really seen a ton of Ochoa defensively having to grapple. Outside of the sprawl and what have you, but he's not getting taken down and held down for lengths of time. We've only got 8 fights to work with the no contest. And we have seen Kavanagh offensively grapple. So that might be a path for him here, but it totally could just be not a path whatsoever. And Ochoa's takedown defense is legit. On the other hand, in the striking, I think Kavanagh's a little cleaner, but I don't think it's enough that it makes it like a complete blowout on the feet. So this is a good fight overall. I think the line is probably wide, but at the same time, I do think Kavanagh is going to be able to do enough to get it done. I'm taking Loney Kavanagh to get this one done, probably by a decision. I think Ochoa is tough as nails, and obviously, dude's Peruvian, so his cardio is going to be great. The altitude down in Peru is super high, just everywhere. So you pretty much have good cardio just by birth. Let me know what you guys think. I will see you next. We have Carlos Hernandez taking on Nyamjargal Tumendembrel. I think I got that right. So for Tumendembrel, he is 8-0, 5-0 in his last 5. Very impressive record. But he's taking on a guy that's been around the UFC for a while and fought some really tough tests in Carlos Hernandez, who's only 2-3 in his last 5. So the 5 on him doesn't look that great, but the level of competition is way higher than what Tumendembrel is facing. So that could be misleading because when I look at these two on paper, it's a pretty close fight because for Tumendembrel, decent striker, right? He's got good forward pressure, power, volume. But although he buzzsaws forward, he does leave himself wide open to be encountered, and he will overswing big time, just wildly overswing. He's durable. It's shown that so far. Nobody's really been able to make him pay, but just wildly overswings. It's almost comical. Decent grappling, decent takedowns. He very much attacks the submissions. He's completely submission over position, and that makes his top control suffer. He's going to start quick, and he's going to make this a fight from bell to bell. It's just defensively he lacks, positionally he lacks. It's very much seek the finish at all times. So that is what you're going to see here. On the Hernandez side, good striker, good volume, good combinations. His kicks are pretty good, kind of underrated actually. Good footwork, and he's tougher than a $2 steak. So for Hernandez, the striking's pretty good. The grappling, also pretty good. Decent takedowns. They're not the best, but he's got a good rear naked choke. He's a very good scrambler, but much like Tumendembrel, he doesn't have very good top control. So realistically, I'm going to see a lot of scrambling on the mat, and I think a lot of wildness on the feet. And for me, I'm going to trust the guy that I know is durable and that has fought some pretty high-level competition, and even in losses, look pretty good. I'm going to go Carlos Hernandez here to get the win and take that O from Tumendembrel. Let me know what you guys think, and I will see you. Women's strawweight final here for the Road to UFC tournament. We have Ming taking on Feng Xiaocan. Now, in this one here, Feng is 5-0 in her last 5. She is 4-1 in her last 5. This is going to be an interesting fight because there's a big height and reach advantage on the side of Xiaocan. She's like 5'7" or something like that, as opposed to the 5'2" of Ming. It's a big difference, right? And I think that's going to be something that can play a role here, because I understand that a lot of people think that Xiaocan has a really good grappling game, but I haven't really seen it. She doesn't have very good takedown defense. I'm starting on this side because I need to break this down first, because I need to get this out of the way. And I'm starting on the last spot I normally cover, so bear with me. Her takedown defense isn't that good, and she is active from her back, don't get me wrong. She has some submission wins, but it's not like she's a grappler. She's definitely a striker first, and I don't understand where the sentiment that she's this really good grappler has come from, but I've heard that. She's not bad, don't get me wrong. She can work well off her back, things like that, but the takedowns aren't getting stopped, and she's not really offensively grappling a ton, at least in recent fights. So I do think that the threat of a takedown in her fights is what causes her to be a bit lower volume. She wasn't always low volume, but once she started getting taken down, actually I think it was when she lost to like Liang Na that she slowed down the volume from then on, because she started picking her shots better and worrying about the takedowns and being ready to stop takedowns. But all in all, she is a good striker. We're working this in reverse. This is wild. Good striker, good combinations. Her kicks are extremely powerful, and she uses that length really well, because she is, like I said, 5'7", which is very tall for the women's 115-pound division. So for Xiaocan, I think she is going to be able to use her power to her advantage here, but I don't think the volume is going to be on her side. Now, when we look at the other side for Xi Ming, she also struggles with takedown defense, but instead of being active from her back, she's incredibly hard to hold down. She works her way back to her feet, and that is what she does to get back in the fight. She has a taekwondo style on the feet. She's a good striker overall, good jab, very clean combinations where she puts her punches and kicks together with a lot of output. She's just coming forward and throwing, but the problem that she has is the opposite of Xiaocan. She has low power. So for Xi Ming, volume over power. Xiaocan, power over volume. At least that's the way I see it. Big time favorite here. And I think this fight could be close if Xi Ming is able to get that distance covered. That's going to be the biggest problem. And if she can threaten with a takedown of her own. I'm not saying that she needs to do well with the takedowns. She just needs to get one or two early in the fight, and I think that's going to really change the way that Xiaocan fights. I'm going to go with Xi Ming as a massive underdog, and I know nobody else is, but I'm going to do it, and I'm going to see. She's been an underdog in every fight in the tournament so far, and she's here in the finals. So we'll take it. Let me know what you guys think. Let me know if you think I'm crazy. Next, we have Kiru Sahota takes on Donghoon Choi. 5-0 in the last 5 for Choi. He is undefeated at 8-0. For Sahota, he is 4-1 in his last 5 fights. Now, there's going to be a big height and reach advantage on the Sahota side. He's like 5'10", and at 125 pounds, that's crazy. So he's going to be much taller and longer here. That is going to be an interesting obstacle for Choi to overcome if he is able to do so. When we break down this fight, Choi is a good striker with good counters. And he's willing to let his opponents go first because he's willing to counter, which can be a problem. But he's durable. He can eat a couple of shots. In fact, I've seen this dude eat some shots that should have put down a horse, let alone a human being. And then he was still in it, didn't even phase him. So dude can take a shot. So if he has to, he will do that and then counter back. He's got a good inside leg kick and a very clean cross. He feints quite a bit and gets that to set up his strikes, as well as draw out reactions from his opponents that he can counter. And he's got a ton of power on the feet as well. When it comes to his grappling, he's got a judo base, and his judo-style takedowns are very good. The problem with that being you have to get into the judo-style clinch in order to get the fight to the mat. So that is a problem for him. Slick transition once it gets to the mat, and he's a very good back taker. All in all, I think his grappling is very good. I just think it could be a problem with the range against Sahota, for the simple fact that you're going to have to get all the way into that clinch in order to get the takedowns. Now, when it comes to Sahota, he's a good striker, long jab, good head movement. He's got really good knees and elbows, especially a flying knee, which he'll use to just kind of crash in on someone. And because he's so long, that knee is a pretty far extension, honestly, from his body. So that helps him quite a bit. Good volume, good rangy kicks. Does spin a bit too much. I don't like that. That can get his back taken from a standing position. We've seen it a couple of times. Even in the Road to UFC tournament, we saw that happen. And he will drop his lead hand when he throws his cross. It's bad. It's like way down here when he throws his cross out there. So that could be something where he gets caught by the counter striker in Choi. Now, in the grappling, he's pretty good there from what we've seen. On his back, he's very active, looks to throw up triangles, arm bars, things like that. But the cage push is where he does his best work in what I would say a grappling part of MMA. He'll get up against the cage. He uses his height really well there. Makes it hard for his opponents to do anything back to him or reverse position. Really puts the pressure on them from that position and can win minutes in that and also slow the fight down, give himself a rest, things like that. For me, this is a good fight. I think this is a real puzzle for both guys to solve because Choi is going to be willing to let Sahota go first. Sahota's going to be going first anyway because he's a longer fighter. But can Choi cover that distance and get the counters? Can he get the takedowns? If he gets the takedowns, what's he going to do about the activity from the back of Sahota? It's a really, really close fight. But here's what sold it for me on what I think is going to lead to a victory for Choi. The spins, I can see him getting taken down from there. That's a good time if Choi can time it, which he's pretty good at timing things. That's why he's a counter striker. He can see that come in, get the body lock or whatever, get to the body and get the takedown, whether it be a toss or just a pull him to the mat kind of thing. Also, when he throws his cross, like I said, he drops that hand way down. The counter striker in Choi will land a nasty shot there if he is given that opportunity. If he's close enough or can cover that distance in that time, even if he has to eat the cross, he's going to be able to land. And when he lands, it's going to be a harder shot than Sahota. So I'm going to go with Choi. Good fight, though. Fun fight. And I'd love to hear what you guys think in the comments below. Bantamweights next. We have Jenisuly Balgyn takes on Su Young Yu. Interesting fight. We've got a couple of guys who I think kind of surprised a bit on the road to UFC. For Balgyn, he's 4-1 in his last 5 fights, 3-1 in a no contest for Yu. It's kind of a matchup where I don't think either guy was really the favorite to win the tournament, and here they are. So when we got Balgyn over here, he's a decent striker. His power and the ability to close distance are what stand out in the striking. I just wish he had a little bit more to go along with that, but honestly, his cage pushing ability is something you could almost think of as striking, and we'll cover that in a second, but I guess we'll cover it now. In general, he's a good grappler overall, but the cage push is something that stood out to me as more of a striking ability than it did a grappling ability, because when he gets to the cage, the dude's looking to cause damage there. He's almost like dirty boxing with you, but also using that cage push really well. So he's keeping the pressure on you, but ripping shots to the body, landing knees, coming up top with punches or elbows, whatever he needs to do. Now on the mat, he's got good takedown entries. The problem is sometimes he doesn't set him up enough, but he does have good entries. If he would maybe set him up with a strike or two, that would really help him get to those takedowns more frequently. When he does get there, he has pretty good top pressure, and he will attack submissions. His arsenal of submissions isn't as wide as someone like you, but it is effective, and he does do well with what he knows. Now, for Yu is a decent striker as well. He's got good movement on the feet. I like that. Dude's tough as nails, and he hits hard. He's got good power, but not the same power as Balgyn. Balgyn's power is going to be higher on that list. The problem for Yu is he throws a lot of single shots, and he's wide open to counters after he throws said single shot. That is a problem for him, and I can see that costing him here. However, in the grappling, I think he's going to be a step ahead. He's got good takedowns. We've seen him use like throws or actual, like standard wrestling style takedowns. He's used a bunch of different ways to get the fight to the mat, and he's good with it. Good transitions, good back takes, and the scrambling abilities there. Close fight. Good fight. The line on this one's close for a reason. I'm going to go with Yu. I think Yu gets it done. I think he will be able to get this fight to the mat, whether it's by his design or Balgyn's. But for me, I think if the fight is on the mat, I think it's going to favor Yu, and I think that's what we're going to get. I do see a possibility, though, where they're on the feet, and even though he's durable, he's wide open for counters, and Balgyn taking advantage of that. So be cautious with this one. Let me know what you guys think. This fight at 205 pounds should be nothing short of fantastic. We are looking at a couple of guys here in Ozzy Diaz and Zhang Mingyang, who combined between the two of them have one decision on both of their records. Like one decision between the two of them. That's wild. These guys are ready to just go in there and swing hammers until somebody drops. Zhang Mingyang, 5-0 in his last 5 fights. Ozzy Diaz, 4-1 in his last 5. That one blemish being his loss to Joe Pyfer on the Contender Series. Not a lot of shame there. That's a tough fight. Both of these guys are incredibly fast starters, and I'll be absolutely astonished if this fight goes the distance. For Zhang Mingyang, he's a good striker, plenty of power, and he just blitzes forward and looks for that finish right away. If it does end up on the mat, his grappling it's decent. He goes for the ground and pound, and that often leads to a rear naked choke for him. On the other side, Ozzy Diaz, good striker with a lot of forward pressure, a lot of power, and he will rip the body extremely well. when it comes to the grappling for him, he's decent there as well. Takedown defense can be a bit lackluster, but he does not accept bottom position, and he can wear guys out just by them taking him down and him getting back up and then landing those shots once they get to the feet. For me, taking Zhang Mingyang simply because I think it's going to be, the added benefit of being closer to home, the fact that he's been to the UFC and fought here before. He just has a few little things going his way. But by no means do I recommend betting on this fight outside. And even then, the fight doesn't go to decision is probably a ridiculous line. So I just don't recommend betting this one. Kick your feet up on the table, crack open an ice cold root beer, and have a good time. This is going to be a fun fight to watch for the short amount of time that it probably lasts. We're taking Zhang Mingyang. Let me know what you got. Strikers in the light heavyweight division. We have Carlos Ulberg taking on Volkan Oezdemir. Oezdemir, 3-2 in his last 5 fights. Looked pretty good in his last matchup. For Ulberg, he's 5-0 in his last 5. He's been on a streak. He's only got that one blemish on the career. When we look at Carlos Ulberg, solid striker with a kickboxing background. He's got very good combinations, good leg kick, can counter-strike really well as keep the range from his opponent and be able to dictate where the fight takes place from that sense. He showed the power in the matchup with Alonzo Menafield and put him out in a couple of seconds. And thus far, he's shown very good takedown defense, although he hasn't fought anybody that's really selling out for that takedown. But he's defended takedowns pretty well so far. For Oezdemir, solid striker as well. He uses his jab as a rangefinder and can follow that up with some good power shots. Got a solid leg kick and a very powerful head kick. At times, especially lately in his career, he's become more of a headhunter, which is good because you can get the knockout, but bad because if you're, simply going for the headshots, it makes it easier for you to be predictable for your opponent and all things like that. But also you can be a little bit hesitant at times. Not all the time. Kind of depends fight to fight, and I think it's kind of the danger levels of his opponent that really kind of brings out whether he's hesitant or not. Now, good grappler. His big overhand sets up the takedown. He will throw that big overhand and then boom, right into the legs if he chooses to go for the grappling. And when he does get it to the mat, he has heavy ground and pound. If he's able to do this, he might have some serious success over Ulberg. However, if it's on the feet, I'm going to trust the kickboxer in Ulberg to be able to keep the range, use his counter-striking, be the faster striker, the more precise striker throughout this fight. We're going to take Carlos Ulberg to get this one done. I do think it stays on the feet, and so that's what makes me lean Ulberg. But let me know what you guys think. I do appreciate your feedback. We got the women's flyweights next. The biggest favorite on this card, Wang takes on Gabriella Hernandez. Hernandez 3-2 in her last 5. Chung being that undefeated 6-0, obviously 5-0 in her last 5, coming off that brutal knockout in her last matchup, her debut actually, where she showed power that you do not see at 125 pounds, especially in the women's division. But let's start on the Hernandez side. We're going to look at her. She's a good striker. She's got good volume, decent power of her own. She can kick very well at all levels, good combinations. But her clinch striking is actually her best asset, I do believe. She's got that Muay Thai style, and it shows in her striking. But her takedown defense isn't great, and she can get held down fairly easily. So that's a big hole in her game. Now, on the other side, for Chung, she's a solid striker. She's very much a kickboxer at heart. She's got good combination, cuts off the cage really well. The power is undeniable, absolutely undeniable. Not many women at 125 pounds can shut their opponent's lights off like that. You see some TKOs here and there. You don't see a punch just putting someone completely unconscious often at women's flyweight. She did that. So she also uses the side kick really well to control range. She'll use it to the body, to the thigh even, things like that. But she does drop her hands when she gets comfortable. So for Wang Chung, if she gets a little bit too comfy in this matchup, landing some shots, whatever she needs to do, and gets those hands kind of low, I could see her getting clipped. Maybe it doesn't put her out or anything. I don't feel like the power is even here, but at the same time, it's just it could be something that doesn't help her out as her career goes on. Decent grappling as well. She showed this in her kind of appearance on the road to UFC, like as a bonus fight. Good takedown defense. Her slams and tosses. She was just throwing her opponent around, just like almost like they were a child. Just because we all just throw children around, right? I mean, it's weird. I don't know why that came up, but either way, good ground and pound as well. Honestly, I think this fight, it makes sense that she's the biggest favorite on the card. Wang Chung is getting this one done. I hope I pronounced her name right. I tried my best. Let me know what you guys think. I will see you next. Song Kanan takes on Muslim Salikhov. Both of these guys are 2-3 in their last 5 fights, and both are predominantly strikers. When we look at Salikhov, he is a solid striker with very good accuracy. His power is pretty good. It still seems to hold up, even though he is getting a bit up there in age, probably like 150 or so years old. Kicks to all levels, does that very well. His kicks are some of his best weapons, but the volume kind of just keeps getting less and less every fight, it seems. Decent wrestling as well, decent takedowns, but takedown defense is one of his better attributes on the feet. He's hard to take down, so he can stuff those and then strike back at you. If he does get taken down, he does work back to his feet pretty well. On the other side, for Song Kanan, Kanan is a good striker, good power, good accuracy, and that lead hook is by far his best weapon. But his striking defense leaves a lot to be desired. He is very hittable. In the grappling department, his takedown defense isn't very good, but he's also very hard to hold down. One thing we found about Kanan is that he doesn't really have a lot of killer instinct. So if he is able to hurt somebody, if he doesn't put him out in that initial strike, the problem is he doesn't follow up with it super well. So for me, if Salikov wasn't 150 years old, I'd be really confident in him here. I'm still going to pick him to get the win, but the age is a problem. I know Kanan's not super young in his own right, but there's a big difference there. Let me know what you guys think. I will see you in the next one. We've got women's strawweights in the co-main event. And guys, if you've been enjoying this video so far, maybe you learned a little something, it'd be really swell of you to go down and like this video. I would appreciate it very much, and it's a free way for you to show your support to the channel. So if you do that for me, that would be great. Now, women's strawweights here. Yan Xiaonan takes on Tabitha Ricci. Ricci is 4-1 in her last 5 fights. She's looked very good lately, improving her record, improving her skill set to go along with it. Yan Xiaonan's been fighting some of the top level competitors, and she's 2-3 in her last 5, which doesn't look that great. But when you look at the losses, it's not so bad, right? It's not like she's losing to bums. Now, in this one here, we're going to break this down, and it's basically going to be a clash of styles because Tabitha Ricci, although she is a decent striker with good forward pressure, basic boxing combinations, she really uses a flurry to get her opponents to back up and kind of push them against the cage. And she has pretty good volume. The striking isn't going to be close. She has these qualities, and it's developing, but her grappling is what gets it done for her. She's a solid grappler with a very large toolbox. She needs to get her takedowns up against the cage, though. Her cage push is very good, and from there, she can work takedowns. Once she gets it to the mat, she's got good top pressure. But if she doesn't get it to the cage first, she's going to struggle with open mat takedowns. She starts quick, and she has great cardio and can last an entire fight, and I do think that's going to help her quite a bit here. On the other side, Yan Xiaonan, for Xiaonan, she's a solid striker. She's the far better striker of the two. She's got clean combinations, good movement, very good volume, and she can pick her shots extremely well even while having good volume. Decent power to go along with it, and she can even counter strike. So in the striking department, Xiaonan's going to be the side. In the grappling, though, she has good takedown defense initially, but once she gets taken down and flattened out, she can be held down, and that could be a problem for her, and I could see her struggling there. Ultimately, for me, I flip-flopped on this one a bunch, but I ended up going with the Yan Xiaonan side. I like the home field advantage. I like that she's going to be the better striker. All these fights start on the feet. And I like the fact that for Ricci needing to get the fight to the cage in order to be able to get takedowns over Yan Xiaonan, at least from what we've seen on tape in the footage, it seems that Ricci needs to get the fight to the cage in order to get takedowns at a high percentage. I believe Xiaonan can use her movement to avoid that. So I think she's going to be able to stop the takedowns more often than not. And that leads me to take Yan Xiaonan to get the win. But let me know what you guys think. We got a big-time main event. Piotr Yan takes on Deiveson Figueiredo. Figueiredo has looked nothing but flawless since moving up to 135 pounds. The man is 4-1 in his last 5 fights, but 3-0 in the bantamweight division. And he has looked like he's even a better version of himself now that he's moved up. He's fighting Piotr Yan, who's been, kind of up and down lately. He's got a win, his first win in a few years, actually, in his last matchup. He's 2-3 in the last 5, but that win over Song Yadong is a pretty good win. So either way, he's bouncing back. He's got the bounce back already. Where is he at now in his career? This is going to be a good fight. Both of these guys are absolutely fantastic top-tier fighters, top-tier bantamweights. So this has a lot of title implications moving forward. When we look at Deiveson Figueiredo, we're going to start here. Solid striker with very good forward pressure, but he doesn't have to throw a lot to have good forward pressure. He's extremely patient, which can be good, but it can also mean he's a little lower volume. That's okay for this fight specifically because both guys are fairly patient and both guys are looking to kind of get that read on their opponent. But Figueiredo's going to come forward. He's got a ton of power. In fact, this dude has so much power that he knocked down Marlon Vera in his fight with Marlon Vera, and nobody does that. Vera has a head that's like cement. The dude doesn't even look like he gets hurt. When he fought O'Malley and ate that knee that sounded like a gunshot, Vera he wasn't even phased. But Figueiredo knocks him down, drops him straight to his butt. So the power's there, the accuracy's there. When he rips the body, you're gonna be gasping for air. And also on top of that, his kicks are very, very good as well. The one thing I don't necessarily like is that his hands are low. It's the opposite of what we're going to see from Petr Yan, which we're going to cover in a second. But he'll keep those hands low. Now, there are good things about that. Like the punches are going to come from odd angles, things like that. He can, use that to help defend takedowns or even get closer to the legs if he wants to get a takedown of his own. But in general, you probably want to block punches. So there is that. He does usually move his head pretty well. Probably should have wrote that up there, but I didn't. Either way, his striking's very good. Jiu-jitsu is absolutely solid as well. This dude has some of the nastiest chokes you'll ever see. Tightest squeeze at the flyweight division. Now that he's up at bantamweight, I'm sure it's going to obviously translate because everything else has. Very good scrambles, super slick sweeps, decent takedowns. They seem actually better now, but decent takedowns, top tier, top pressure, and he's got super, super slick transitions and very quick. This dude's grappling does not get enough credit. The reason why, down at flyweight, it really fatigued him to shoot takedowns, so he didn't do it as often as he probably should have. But up at bantamweight, it hasn't seemed to really wear him out as bad. So I do think he's going to be able to implement this at some point in this fight. The grappling is going to be there for him. On the other side, we've got Petr Yan, who is notoriously a slow starter. The first round, he tends to give that up, but it's because he's downloading the reads. That's what everybody always, he's like getting the reads of his opponent, which makes sense. He does do that, and he doesn't do it really well. All in all, he's a very solid striker with very good, forward pressure, high guard, that kind of style. He's going to come forward and just walk you down with his guard up. Good combinations, and he's a counter striker predominantly, which is why I think being patient for Figueiredo isn't going to be a big issue because realistically, Jan's looking to counter. So we're going to get a lot of them looking at each other, I think, through this fight. Could one guy start saying, screw it, I'm going to take the initiative? Sure. But in general, both guys are kind of looking to see what their opponent's going to do. With his countering style, he has two different styles. He has the block and return style where he'll let the opponent throw, do whatever they're going to do, and then when they stop their onslaught, then come back with his own combinations or whatever. He also has the pivot and strike, and that's when instead of eating the punch on the arms or whatever, he instead pivots off and throws his strike to try to counter that way. Both are good strategies. I think one's going to be much more effective than the other in this matchup specifically, and I think that's the pivot and strike, because if you want to block a shot from Figueiredo, you best hope that block holds up really well, because if it gets through, you're probably hitting the canvas. So I do think the pivot and strike's going to be a better one for him here. He's shown really good durability, has Petr Yan, so I don't think that's going to be a big issue for him. But it's not going to look good at the end of the fight if Figueiredo lands a couple of those big shots, even on the guard, because it's going to move a guy like Yan. So there is that. He does kind of stand in front of his opponents quite a bit, and a lot of times it's because he's looking for that counter, whether that be off the pivot or off the block and return. He does stay in front of his opponents, and normally that's okay because he counters so well. Like I said, this fight, that could be trouble. And then when he switches his stance to southpaw, he can fight out either stance, but he throws a lot of naked kicks from the southpaw stance, and I don't think that's good. So I think he needs to stay away from the southpaw stance in this fight specifically. If he's going to switch to southpaw and just stick with his back boxing combinations, fine. But I don't think that throwing a naked kick is going to be a good idea against a guy like Figueiredo, who A, has tons of power, and B, can also get the takedown off that kick. In the clinch, this is an area where I think Yan has the advantage, in like the Thai-style clinch. He has very good trips, very good throws. His knees are deadly, and that dirty boxing is one of the best things he can do there. If he can get that Thai clinch, get the one arm on it and rips body shots, or, come over the top and get that trip going just like so, he has all those options in the clinch. I think he's going to be a better clinch fighter. His takedown defense has been pretty good thus far. We've seen him taken down before, don't get me wrong, but it's not easy, right? Aljamain had to work really hard to get him to the mat. Merab notoriously failed like a million takedowns trying to get him down, so there's that. But Jan's also got a very good killer instinct in the cage, and that's something that you like to see from a fighter. This fight is a very good fight, an extremely close fight, and honestly, the odds don't reflect that. The odds, I've seen Figueiredo as high as a plus 310 underdog. My goodness, plus 310 for Figueiredo? You guys know something I don't? Is he going in there missing an ankle or something? He's just walking around on a stub instead of his second foot? What's going on? I think Figueiredo should not be a plus 310 underdog. I think he's sitting at like plus 250 at the time of recording this. That's insane. Yan is very good, but he's 2-3 in his last 5 fights. Yes, he got the bounce back win over Song. I get that. Figueiredo's looked fantastic at bantamweight. I'm going to take the massive underdog here in Deiveson Figueiredo to get this done. I think he can do it. I think Jan's going to have some trouble staying in front of him, and I think that Figueiredo is the type of guy that will make you pay for that and can also mix in the grappling and do very, very well, even against somebody with the takedown defense of Yan. Don't get me wrong, Jan has a shot here. I think this is a pick'em fight at best. I don't understand why Figueiredo is a big underdog. But let me know what you guys think. I do love to hear from you. Also, while you're down there, like the video. Please do that. That helps me out a ton. One other thing, coming up real soon, we're almost to the end of the year. Can you believe that? We're almost at the end of the year. And so myself and Kendra, at the beginning of the year, we did our expert versus casual picks for who's going to be champion at the end of the year, which was a really fun video that we did. If you haven't seen that, I'm actually going to put it up at the there's a live stream. I'm going to put that as the thing that shows up on the screen here if it hasn't already. And so you can watch that if you're newer to the channel since then. We've had a lot of growth since then. But what we're going to do coming up at the end of the year, so after the last fight card, which is actually right around the corner. There's what, like 3 cards left this year or something like that? 4 maybe? We're going to go over our stuff. We've also got some pretty good holiday-themed costumes we're going to be wearing. And we're gonna wrap up our year with all of that, right? So we're going to go over what we did, how we did. And then also we had a little wager, not with money, but a little wager on the who's going to have better picks for who's the champion at the end of the year for each division. So you guys can see who won that and all that fun stuff. So if you'd like to tune into that, it's coming up very soon. So keep your eye on the channel. Thank you guys for watching this video, and I will see you next time.